Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest heart, the blackest mind, the blackest man on social media is signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Let me explain this to you right quick. I'm not going to say this to big myself up, and I'm not going to get into how I learned this, unless enough of you ask for that story. What I'm going to say today sounds like it at first, but what it shows is really the reason that I'm telling you this, not the bragging and the compliment to myself. I don't show my face, and I'm not going to, for the sake of not only my own privacy, but also the privacy of people depending on me. I've learned my lesson with that. But let me tell you this. Today I learned from my wife that many more women notice me than what I thought, than what I previously knew. My wife could say this because she's my wife, and either she really feels that way and that's why we're married, or because we're married, she feels she better say this even if it's not true. I don't know which one is running through your mind right now. I know that it's got to be one of those two, and I don't blame you. But the discussion was longer than I could recount to you right now. However, I came up pretty much thinking that some liked the way I looked, others didn't really notice. And on a few rare occasions, I was ugly to some people. Statistically speaking, that's the most accurate or the most likely way for anyone to expect to look. Statistically speaking. I eventually thought, well, if they do like the way that I look, they can't really come out and say it, and I understand that they have to hide that sometimes. And then, of course, there was the revelation I got in 2001 where my colleagues broke it down for me, and one of them really, really broke it down. And when I said, so light skin's ugly now, and she was like, no, it doesn't have to be ugly. The point is that it's not popular, and that's different. So that explained why the rules change when I walk in the room. And it's still the case today with black folks. But my wife let this slip while she was talking about something else. That's why I believe her. She wasn't focused on trying to convince me. She was actually focused on something else about which this became a side note. And she was actually incensed because me not knowing this made it more difficult for her to explain something else to me that I didn't understand. Something she requested of me for which I didn't know the reason and didn't understand was actually based on this, but I didn't know that's what it was based on, so I didn't understand the request. Long story. Her focus was not on this. Her focus was on another issue. But she did get upset, actually, because me not knowing this, it caused her a difficulty with another explanation because she assumed that I knew for a while and realized today that I really did not know. And then she was upset because she wanted to know why the hell my entire culture wanted me to not know this. What the hell did the population of African American women in my hometown or in Atlanta stand to gain from me not knowing that I look this good? I'm not bragging. I don't even see it really even myself. I see I'm not unhappy with the way that I look. I just don't see what she's talking about. However, she was like, no, it's real. And she started to point to certain things to justify what she was saying. But even then, she wasn't focused on that. She said, no, it's true. That's why this teacher over here was friends with you. That's why this other one here said that you could pretend to be her husband so that you all could go into this restaurant, into the family section. She wasn't just trying to get at the food. She was trying to drop you a hint. That's why this one said this, that, and the other. She said, no, this is based on, this based on that. But you didn't know this. Why didn't you know? And I even said, look, I told you that, because I would hear, about twice a year, I would hear, well, he's cute, but. She was like, well, okay, didn't you have girlfriends? And I told her, I did, but they weren't even my age, and they weren't that gorgeous themselves until I started fighting. She said to me, okay, Black, this is crazy. She said that to me. She said, Black, this is insane. You didn't know this, that, and the other. She was saying this to me, and I told her, no, I didn't know that it was like that. I still have a rough time believing it, but okay, I appreciate the compliment. And she got impatient. She was like, okay, look, I'm not flattering you. It's not really a compliment, but you're welcome. The point is, that's why, and she started pointing at other things that had happened. But she was upset because I didn't know. Because in order for me to not know, from what she said, in order for me to not know, every African American woman around me had to be in on keeping me from knowing this. She said to me, no, Black, it's beyond your cute butt. And what were the buts? I told her, but I look too young, or but I look too naive, or but I am too young. She said, no, that's not true. I can look at you and tell they weren't telling the truth when they said that. Not even back then. I saw your photos. They were lying, Black. But why would they lie like that? What do they gain? I'm going to answer the question for you. Now, she and I had a conversation. Brothers, let me tell you what they gain, because this has something to do with you. I'm not telling you the story just to tell you what's going on with me. But I will say this. I learn something all the time. Being happily married in a marriage that is similar to my parents' marriage, which is still ongoing and strong, I'm learning things, positive things. Every few days, I learn not only how good it can be, but how bad it doesn't have to be. I didn't learn this stuff first time I tied the knot. And I was one of the lucky men. I wasn't abused, certainly not physically. But I was one of the lucky men in the marriage that failed and flopped and floundered with the American, typical American. Actually, better than typical because of the things she did not do that some of you guys have had to go through, horror stories. I was fortunate, and yet and still, I realized I've come out scarred, somewhat traumatized. And I realized the extent today. I realized it today talking with my wife. Of course, I know what the reason is that they all were in on this in my hometown and then later on in Atlanta. It was the phenotype. You can't show that off to your friends. You may like it. It doesn't have to be ugly on you, but you can't show that off to your friends. If you're going to have this complexion and this texture of hair, you have to look like The Rock. And even then, I don't think a lot of African American women approach guys like him. So, let me say this too, though. What it has to do with you gentlemen is this. For me, it was the phenotype. I know that because I know that anytime the rules changed, for me, it was based on that. I found that out in 2001. I told y'all the story. I remembered it in 2017. That's what it is. Now, when I'm treated the same as other men, it's not that. But when I'm treated differently from other men, especially if it's worse, that's what the F it is. Hands down, that's what it is. I'm average height, so it's not because I'm short. If I was taller, I'd probably be treated a bit better. I'm average build, so it's not because I'm fat. But if I had muscles, it would probably be a bit better. Most things about me are very, in terms of dimensions, my dimensions, they're very normal. Very middle of the road average. Like height, weight, build, and stuff like that. But I have to tell you, many of you have been through something similar. It's just been for different reasons. J Cash, J Born Center, Selecta J, and I, and no, there's no J in my name actually, but Selecta J and all those gentlemen, all those J's, and then I myself went through it based on phenotype, being singled out for a different type of treatment from women. But many of you have gone through this because, well, people know that you're good with languages, or people found out that you can keep a computer from breaking down and keep it working fast, or because you know which ones to not buy, or because you did well in physics class or physical science class, even things like that. Somewhere down the line, you got a brain and a mind like a steel trap. You're good at one of the subjects that everybody else ain't so good at. That it could be that. Wrong prescription glasses. It could be that you one day wore the wrong color green shirt. It could be anything. Whatever would not really bother an individual woman, but she can't show it off to her friends, is reason enough for all of them to lie to you about your SMV or your MMV, whichever one you're into. I use MMV and I use RMV because MMV is marriage market value. Romantic market value could include marriage or mating market value. I use that oftentimes because it encompasses marriage, and it encompasses just sex. To be realistic, not to promote fornication. You may hear me use MMV, but you have been lied to in many cases unanimously by them. One, they do underestimate. So some of what they overlook, they really are not thinking about. They're just overlooking it. But then there are the things that they know, and they know it's there, and they're intentionally overlooking it. Not only themselves, but they are giving you the impression that it's nothing. These are the same things that when you're a young guy, they tell you work in your favor. Later on, they show you that it doesn't work in your favor. But the point I'm making is that they lie to you. See, I used to think that I was the only one that they suspected of not even being into women, or thought was socially awkward at first glance without even knowing me. I thought I was the only one that went through that at one point. It turns out I was one of the first ones in my environment growing up to get these things, or they would try these labels on, but I wasn't the only one. A lot of you have been through something similar. What I want you to understand, though, gentlemen, is that many of you have been lied to about your SMV. And these gynocrat goons and matriarchal ma'am dingoes and PUAs and reverse pimps have fallen for it and have told you that because they believe it. These niggas believe that this is how these women see you. And that it's natural, that they can't help it, that it's in their DNA, when in fact it's mostly in their socialization. And frankly, naturally speaking, a lot of these women don't individually see you this way. They just know that other women do, so they got to play along. Now, we already talked about that, but what I did not understand was the extent. I knew this pattern existed. I was unaware of the extent. Apparently, almost all of them are in on it. And especially if they are a 7 or above in their looks, they're in on it. They know that they're not telling you the truth about your market value, and they've already overlooked some of your credits themselves. It's just like that story where that sister is married to that Caucasian husband. And I say sister because they're sisters to each other, but she's married to the Caucasian husband. And when she stayed home, the appraiser undervalued the home that they were trying to sell. But when he stayed home and removed the photographs of her, it was about a 33% increase in the value of the home. I'm sorry, 50% increase, but that meant that it was 33% of the difference was, in other words, 2/3 with her at home and 3/3 of that last value with. Point I'm making is that it was a hell of a lot more money the house was worth when he stayed home and removed all images of his wife, and so they thought it was just, only owned by white people that they were buying this house or appraising. All of a sudden, it's worth more. Now, stop and think about this. Black couples go through this all the time. They can get more money for that house because of an appraiser not knowing that she was black. What if both of them had been black? Now what? There would have been no way they could have gotten a proper appraisal for the proper value of their home. And so when black men have to go through stuff like this all the time, it's actually not okay that sisters start using finances as a way to tell a black man that he's actually unattractive. They could say that they don't want that financial situation and be honest and say that's my materialism and my hypergamy. But to sit up and say, well, you're dusty and you're actually unattractive and ugly to me because of the financial situation in which white supremacy has put you, the whole mayonnaise mafia has put you, is disingenuous. Because when you take a man that's genetically pre-selected, they don't ask all that. They just have his baby. They throw caution to the wind, give in to their lust, take that cream pie. And then, if he does bounce, try to tell somebody else that he's a dad. That's the end of it. Nothing else. Nothing else. So that being said, let me tell you guys, this is being done to many of us. That's actually the default. Most of us in the black community will have had this done. They're going to pull out things that, if they were true, would explain why you may have had such a difficult time, not just romantically, but even in business with them. If they were true, but that's the thing. They're going to pull these things out even if they're not true. They're going to say, well, you're suspect. You might not even like women, or you're just socially awkward. You're just less manly, just less smooth. Now, if these things were true, they could hold you back, especially in that culture. However, they're going to pull these things out even if they're not true. That's why you can no longer afford to believe black American female or Western black female input about your MMV in the first place. It's not that they're all lying, but most of them will. The majority are in on it. The majority of them are unanimously agreed on lying to you and me, the majority of us, about our market value. Now, my wife was upset. Like, why would all of them be in on keeping this from you? She wanted to know. I didn't want to go too deep into it. I did tell her that it's about a retirement plan. It's so that they can go through a whole phase, be a slut, screw these guys they shouldn't be screwing in the first place, and then later on still have someone that would take them seriously because he would not have the experience to know better. Keeping the bulk of men inexperienced so that they would be a backup plan in a retirement. And she said that is so disgusting. Not even that they're being sluts, but they insist on like getting with non-sluts get. Not just that they're doing that, but like they refuse to accept what comes with that. They're so childish. But she even said, she even said, if you believe that you can get away with stuff like this and that there's no God, no judgment day, no punishment, no consequence to pay, you can do stuff like that. What's to stop someone if there's no consequence for it? Anyway, what this means, gentlemen, is exactly that. You can no longer listen to them. Maybe you're listening and you're one of the socially awkward men. Maybe you're not. How you gonna know from them? Because to them, every man that all of them don't want to screw is socially awkward. As a matter of fact, if she likes the way you look, but enough women ain't screwed you already that she knows about, you're socially awkward. I knew that this whole hyper analysis and hyper scrutiny and all this stuff existed, but I knew that there was, a unanimous, they act like a union to keep most men inexperienced. That was my last recording. That's what it was about. But my wife got me to realize the depths of it. In these last few days, I keep on having these new revelations, not even about what exists, but how severe and how extensive these things are. Gentlemen, this is beyond war. I don't know a word for it. It's worse than war. But we need to make Dave Chappelle the norm and not the exception. I really think we need to start doing that. They got a ton of Christians and Muslims in Southeast Tropical Asia that are into brothers. Ton of them. They got, I think that if enough of us were to go to the continent and positively reward the traditional behaviors that in the areas where we still find them, we could stave off the spread of this Western misandric feminism that's already spreading through the continent, largely from South Africa or through South Africa. I think if we went into Latin America and positively reinforced these things where we find them, that we could stave off the spread of feminism even there. I'm glad to see, the thing is that we already know what the solution is. That's the good thing. I don't have to go through that again. I'm glad we know. What I would say though was this, because now I understand the severity, we may have to step up the severity of what we're doing. And to do that, what I would say is this: try to find a young man that knows and is trying to get the hell up out. And, if you already established yourself and some income abroad, try to get these brothers to help you. Because even if where you live is not his end goal, it could be a stepping stone to there. That's the thing. I think we need to do this. We need to focus on making Black American men, and even Black British and Black Canadian men, and Black Western European men, and Black Bahamian men. We need to focus on making these men the new Lebanese. You know how the Lebanese are everywhere except Lebanon right now. I mean, they're in Lebanon, but you know how they're all over you find Lebanese everywhere around the globe, right? Yeah. And they keep in touch with each other. Same thing. We need to do that. We need to focus on doing like they're doing. Just finding out what it's like to live everywhere and what's a way to make money and even help out the local economies. Not just take money from them, but even to help them out. We need to find ways to do that. That being said, we need to step that up. If you're doing it already, you're already there. Those of you that are already established somewhere else, especially if you got a business, find a young brother. If you find a young brother that knows about SYSBM and IBMOR and leaving and passports, recruit them first to help you out as a stepping stone. I don't want to go too much long. I've tried to keep this short many times and I failed. Thank you for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum, black, heterosexual, non-select male power, just because not only do they not like it, but all of them are in on it, or almost all of them. And unapologetically, black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.